What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my. Just a little bit. Yeah, welcome back to my review for, or welcome back to my channel for this review of The Flash, Season 8, Episode 14, I think it is? Yep. Funeral for a Friend. Now, I did film a review for last week's episode, but last week was so hectic with work that I never got the chance to upload it. It got so far afterwards. It was just like, there's no point. So I just skipped it like I did with SmackDown. But this episode is the fallout from last episode where Death. I think was what Death Falls was the last episode, and just a minor spoiler if you haven't seen last week's episode. We lost Frost. I think they said too it was going to be a death this season of one of the members of Team Flash, and that was she ended up being the death that was talked about. So in this episode, well, before I get into it, I'm gonna give you the synopsis for this episode. Team Flash uses the distraction of a bank robbery meta to distract from the grief of losing someone they love. Now, as we already got into, Frost was the person that distracted themselves from. Man, this episode was good. Death Falls was good. Like, had I put out the video, you would have knew Death Falls was an 8 out of 10 for me. This episode was good in the fact that for the first, this was like a first. They dealt with grief. They dealt with losing people on the show, of course, but they never dedicated an episode to show how losing someone, the grief of losing someone, really affects them and their ability to save people. So this is the first time in the series that they sold it in they always sold it for like Barry, like how he's trying to overcompensate, or maybe a little bit in Iris, but it's like they always sold just for one character. This episode was basically the whole team, how the whole team is messed up. They even talk about it like in the episode how usually in the normal workplace, when you lose someone in the family, you take a day off. You take not the day off, but you take time. Bereavement. You take time to grieve. And get your head back on straight. They even acknowledge that you're not really something like this. You're supposed to not even be at work, but this is not a normal job because their job is basically protecting the city. This episode picks up. I think from the way how the episode was structured, it was like a week later. I think it's been a week since Frost died, since the last episode, and pretty much like I said, this episode goes into it basically almost do like a chapter. It breaks down basically everybody's time. And the way how we get there is that everybody is it starts off like where everybody just basically with this nice little melody song playing, everybody just mourning Frost. Like everywhere they go, they see her and everything. Like with Chester at Jitters, you see he's staring at the different superhero names for coffee, and he see the Killer Frost coffee, and he's sitting there doing that. Allegra is at work trying to be a part of a group thing, but not, her head just not into it. You see Barry, he's staring at the last place he's sitting, that last place he Braun Frost from the previous episode. Uh, Iris is just walking the street, and she just having a hard. She just sees like things that remind her of Frost, and then and so forth and so on. That's how they basically start the episode with, and then we get the meta. Who was really like that's one of the things I didn't like about this episode. Like the meta was really like non-existent in this episode. Like the meta that was used to drive the story for was Blockbuster, and I would have been interested to see how that played out. But when you meet him, they go try to stop him because he's robbing the bank, and basically Blockbuster is one of it was painfully obvious that Blockbuster was one of those people that they should have taken out like right then and there in their first little encounter, but they screwed the pooch because they were still grieving Frost. So things were awry. Like Chester, he was at the command, he was at his little desk, basically from the at Star Labs, but he wasn't even paying attention. And then he like got the information about the shoot late, and then Barry had to go do something. It was up to Allegra, Chester, and Cecile to try to stop him. And Chester screwed it up because he was saying he told them the game plan, but actually he was like, okay, we're gonna do a little bit of this and that and that and that. Like Allegra, you hit him with this and that and that. Frost, you coming back around, and clean. Oh man! And then he was like, oh. He realized he said Frost, which threw Allegra off, and then Allegra tried to shoot him with one of her beams, but she actually did shoot a car and blew it up and knocked herself out. Cecile tried to. Chester realized that his suit is based off his suit gets his power for his emotions and all this different other crap. So he tells Cecile that if she just used her powers basically to calm him down, a la almost like Professor X doing. It would stop Blockbuster, but she can't do it because she's overwhelmed with grief and the grief for the people in the building, the grief for Frost, and he just like, wow, y'all the worst heroes ever, and he just escapes. Now I highlight this part because that's it. That's it. That's all you see of Blockbuster. I think the next time they talk about him, they deal with him off screen. They don't even show you the battle itself. For the rest of the episode, then that's like we saw in the little preview for this episode. Barry says we can't go back out there like this, and you got Joe giving the sage advice about what to do, how to grieve. That's what the rest of this episode, after the whole Blockbuster thing, the rest of this episode is just basically structured around the different people. Like they do it like almost like chapters, and the rest, like everything I talked about was just like the first 10 to 15 minutes. The rest of the episode is structured, like I said, basically around Joe's idea of because they don't know where Blockbuster is and that they do have this opportunity. He tells them to take this opportunity to basically take some time off and grieve Frost. And he said he tells them the best way he knows that they should try to grieve Frost is by honoring her. And he said the way how he honored Frost was by honoring her, one of her last wishes to him, which was to express itself through art. And he said he told him like, I'm not going to lie, when I first saw the canvas and started trying, he said it actually made me feel good, made me feel like Frost was smiling down on me because I actually tried something that she wanted me to try. And that's what taking Joe's advice except for Caitlin. Because I think Caitlin she gets into an argument with Barry and Team Flash, but basically, the rest of the episode is structured like that. Like it goes, it's in chapters. Every after the first couple of minutes with Blockbuster and everything, is basically the rest of the episode is structured like this. I think it goes Iris, because like in between commercial breaks, like when you go on commercial break, they come back on to the next person. I think it goes Iris, Chester. I think it goes Iris, Chester, and Allegra, Barry, Caitlin. Like it goes into different people. It shows different people and stuff. Like even like one of them was like it shows with that person from back in the earlier part of the episode and what they did from that point on. But that was a cool little structure. And then, like I said, the only downfall I hated about this episode was that Blockbuster usually they try to hide when they just use a villain from the comic books as just a plot device to move the episode forward. They usually like hide it, a little bit. They did not hide it in this episode. Like they let you know that Blockbuster was nothing more than a plot device just to show you that they couldn't stop him. A low level meta, they couldn't stop him because they was grieving. But other than that, the episode was good. I enjoyed the episode. The little cliffhanger at the end, and I would say, I did have another negative, and that was the usual. Somebody didn't learn their lesson, and now they're gonna try some stupid thing. But this is because this is so expected from from the Flash TV series. I was about to say Team Flash, but the Flash TV series, that I'm like, you know what? I'm not even gonna count that as a negative because they do this all the time. It was just funny how this particular person is doing something reckless after doing something reckless that caused them to be at where they're at right now. But anywho, with that being said, I'm giving this episode a funeral for a friend. I was gonna give it an 8. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10 because it wasn't a perfect 10, so I can give it like an 8 or 9. This episode was a solid. This was a solid 8 episodes, so that's why. So 1 point just for the fact that for the lackluster villain in the episode, and the fact that you only see him on screen once is the reason why I took a point away. But yeah, 7 out of 10, big ups. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode of The Flash, and if you enjoyed this video, then you hit this button right there in the upper right corner for all of my reviews. And if you enjoyed this video so much you want to support the channel, all you gotta do is hit that like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button, do all those great things, because your feedback helps me do this even better. And as always, hitting you on these videos for more of my amazing content, but don't go anywhere because I got more on the way. Peace out.